Hello, beautiful souls. Welcome back. It's been a while since I've carried on with my Minchiate series. Today is the penultimate video as far as analyzing the deck goes. I'm going to do this one, which is the black suits, spades, swords, and wands, baton. And this is number 6 through 10. And then the final video of the sort of analytic series will be the court cards or the honors. And then I'm going to start to do some regular readings with the Minchiate Tarot. So that's where I'm at, and I feel like I'm ready to get back to this. This is such a wonderful deck to look at, and there are two on the table. The colorful one is the Bamarzo Minchiate by Amparo Aguirre. And then this one is the Minchiate Florentine. This is part of the Anima Antiqua series by Lo Scarabeo. And I've just been shuffling some cards and playing with some readings. And I just want to let you know that these decks shuffle beautifully. The Lo Scarabeo ones, I'm sure this one does as well too, but I was just wanted to let you know these are beautiful shufflers. Even though we are shuffling 96 cards and it's a thick deck, because that might be something that could be problematic with fancier cardstock. So I'm going to keep an eye on that once I get to readings. But for today, we're going to look at the sixes and start here. And 6 is such a lovely number. I'm really happy when sixes show up in a reading. It just feels so very balanced. We are past the midway point, and things just feel a little bit easier. And the general number of 6, the general energy of the number 6, is quite peaceful and happy. I love the way that this one has a peacock on it. It feels very divine, like we're in the center of a really beautiful space here. I want to say this star certainly emphasizes the beauty and the energy of the 6. The peace of the 6, the centeredness of the 6, right? It is a 3 plus a 3. It feels really good, even though that we are in what could be more combative energy in the black suits. What I did in the last few episodes where I was looking at the minor cards, I also put on the table the major arcana that have an associated number. So here you see 6, 16, 26, and 36. And so I'm going to have a look at any associations that arise from my observations with the majors. And I don't know if that's something that folks do in the European continent in reading Minchiate or not. But I am fascinated with numbers, and I would always pay attention to that. And I think as a reader, you really need to learn to make this your own. It is a wonderful process, whether you're doing this for self-inquiry, you're reading for another, whatever your motivation is. This is the Italian Tarot by Valentina De Luca, the Matro Nua. And I'm just putting this on the table here just so you can see that the wands look pretty much the same as in this Italian-inspired, old Italian-inspired tarot. So, except we don't have the floral embellishments in the wands. So the wands are going to be familiar. They look a lot like old Italian tarot, like Tarot de Marseille. It is the swords that look a lot different. We do not have the familiar curved swords. And while we do have some animals and a few other things on the sword cards, they look different. Also, which will be quite obvious, is the fact that the swords point up in this deck, not in these ones, because we have the scabbards pointing in both directions. But when you're looking at Tarot de Marseille, all of the odd numbers, the ones that have a sword in the center, the sword is facing up. And I believe for the most part in the Minchiate Tarot, the swords are always facing down. And that's something you want to think about. It might have a different feeling. It might bring a more grounded energy. Something certainly to think about. The baton, of course, you can hold them either way because they have the knobs on both ends. I'm just looking at the Bamarzo here, and those dots that are between, they feel like energy to me. They could be little yods. Quite beautiful here. Temperance fits so beautifully with the number 6. It also fits just really great with 6s. We want in temperance to find harmony and to find peace, and the association of temperance with the 6, regardless of the suit, just fits really well. So we're looking for temperance of action, temperance of activity, fire, creativity, right? So I think we could bring that in as a way of understanding the higher frequency of this card. And of course, if temperance shows up, it might be a reminder to be careful to look for balance in this element, or reassurance that there is indeed balance here. Despite the fact, like I said, these could be quite combative energies in the wands and the swords, hope is a very positive card. It speaks to optimism and a sense of spirit. And I feel that both the star and hope, we saw this, of course, when we were looking at the red suits as well, too, raise the frequency of these cards, and I think are very important with the black suits because they can be problematic, especially as the cards become more and more crowded. The more wands, the more swords that are on the card, they feel denser and busier. They start to form a shield or a wall of some sort, and they feel more immovable. It's interesting how in the Florentine Tarot we have space between, right, between the elements, whereas in the Bamarzo the space between is filled up. So how does that make you feel? You know, I feel here like this could be, these 6 swords are somehow soldered together, and they could be held by this piece that may be attached and keeping them as one shape. I almost feel like I want to spin them. And so you will get different feelings about space, a lack of space, and the way that the animals perhaps move towards humans, what they're looking at. Certainly a different feeling with the cat looking back as opposed to the cat looking ahead. And I want to be paying attention to that in a reading about what the cat might be paying attention to. And very interesting the way that the rider on the star card, so one is very calm and moving in a different direction than the other one, though the rider looks back while the horse is quite active. So it must be a very, very good rider to be sitting so calmly on the horse while the horse is rearing up like this. The horse is also looking back, so there's something to pay attention to this way. And then Scorpio. It looks like a really calm card. The waters are calm. The bird, whether the bird is in the water or on the land, feels quite calm, does not feel threatened by the tail of the scorpion. And so I would be thinking about qualities of Scorpio, the question of the querent in particular, and how that fits in with the Scorpionic journey and the major themes of Scorpio. When I think of Scorpio and the 6s, I think of the 6 of Cups. You know, I go back to Golden Dawn, and I think about how we do get a reprieve of sorts in the middle decan of Scorpio. But Scorpio isn't all about, you know, the depths and the darkness. There's a reason for the search in the depths and the darkness, for the hard work that is Scorpio. And I think the 6 of action, the 6 of mind, give us a moment of peace And that can feel pretty important in the challenges, whether it's Scorpio season or how the energy of Scorpio is showing up in your chart. These are all things we have to look at. When I think of the Seven of Swords in terms of this particular style of moon card, the precision, the way that the calipers measure the cycle of the moon, it feels like there is a precision and a clarity that is being sought, and that maybe there is a point that needs to be made, or that energy of the six felt a little loose. And it's almost as if this middle sword here brings everything together. And as it points toward the earth, I know this is not landing in dirt, but it has that intent, that grounded feeling to it. And so there is something that wants to be made manifest, made clear. And maybe the message is being made clear in pertaining to the current cycle of the moon. And with this card coming up in a tarot reading, be it Minchiate or any of the older decks that have this style of a tarot, I really want to pay attention to the present lunar cycle, where we are as far as the phase of the moon, but also the sign that the moon is in. Aries is a very dynamic energy, pointing to action and purpose and drive, virility. And there is a lot of fire in these cards. The fact that force or strength is here makes me feel that there is some resilience that is going to be required to endure a process of sorts, that it might be a little bit difficult initiating, and I'm thinking of Aries as a cardinal suit, initiating what it is that you've come to this reading for. Prudence speaks very well to the suit of swords, this idea of intelligence, clarity of mind. I really like in the Prudence card how we see the reflection of the person. This is very real, how we look into ourselves. There's some sort of a pause here. Something I'm noticing is that in Strength, the woman is seated, and in Prudence, she's seated, and the astronomer is seated. Like there's a need. We need to sit down. This is big information, big energy. Perhaps there's some big decisions that need to be made here. And what's most important is that we get really clear. We don't act impulsively. And I think with all of this energy, be it air or fire, there is a tendency to act impulsively in the 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 of these two suits, because they want to get going. They're not patient in any regard. And this energy really makes me feel like we need to do that. We need to take a moment here, get really clear about where we're going. And I think that I love this moon card. It makes me feel like there's trust and information. And there's a nice contrast of energy between the lunar energy and, if you will, the solar masculine energy of the black suits. And then we come to the eights. And I know Aries is not a goat. It's a ram. It's a sheep. But there's something about the numbers 7 and 8, the progression from the land ram goat to the sea goat. And I know we've talked about this, and not many people have made sense of the order of the astrological cards in the Minchiate Tarot. But I think there's something that's going on. There is a plan here that the sevens and eights balance each other when you're talking Golden Dawn correspondences. And I know that sometimes the familiarity with the tree of life and the balance between Netzach and Hod is always important. I'm going to be looking at sevens and eights together and how they come up. Well, I've never really thought about Capricorn balancing Aries. They're both quite industrious. They are both cardinal signs. They both want to get going. And maybe this is about togetherness. And together we can fulfill this intention, this project, much better. There's something here that's going on. Anyway, I just wanted to comment on that. I think I did talk about that before in a previous episode. So number 8, we have justice and faith and Capricorn and the sun. The idea of balance seems really important here. So we're back at an even number. And the even number fits nicely with justice. And the balance and the harmony of the sun and the implications of love and happiness seem to kind of radiate out over these cards. I like the idea that faith is here too. Despite the fact we are in this intensity of more and more wands and swords on the cards, we must continue to cultivate this energy in order to navigate, to figure out what's going on in the intensity of these cards. With this intensity, justice becomes more significant in that there's more to rectify. There's more to settle. There's more cards on the table. There's more issues on the table. There's more voices, more minds, more opinions and people and maybe even artisans. And there's certainly more soldiers and more fighting. Both of the animals in the 8 of spades is comfortable on the dirt, looking for food. There doesn't seem to be any agitation here. And it's interesting that the monkey, whatever the figure is, atop the 8 swords, seems to be reflecting what's going on in the 18th arcanum of faith. Now, you can't tell me that that is an accident. I did a more extended episode on the virtues. And when I think of faith, I think of the yogic precepts of either Ishvara Pranidhana or even Svadhyaya. It looks a lot like Svadhyaya, self-study, that the more I know my sacred texts, the more faith I have in those sacred texts, the more energy and intention I put into them in my practices, the more I will know this light that is emanating here. And there is a correspondence between the karmic energy of justice and faith. There's a trust that is implied here. And I feel very much like there's a trust that is developing in the sun as well. And while this doesn't hold the peace of the 6, it holds in a way a heavier harmony. There is maybe a value or an importance to taking a moment for the 2 sides to not be at odds. If we want to, looking at Capricorn, if we want to build, if we want to create anew, it seems as if the abundance of voice, the abundance of message, intelligence, the abundance of willingness to act is certainly going to give the Capricorn energy some impetus. It feels like this group of cards is a big yes. And then we come to the number 9. It's such a big number. It is a number of ripeness. It's a number of fulfillment and conclusion. It is 3 threes. It has the potential of great divinity and support here, even great accomplishment. And yet, so many things speak here to the idea of 10 and moving on, because we have the energy of the wheel, which is 9 in Minchiate. And I feel like the arrow of Sagittarius, of the archer, is pushing forward intention, wanting us to go on, not wanting us to remain stagnant. The World card also suggests the idea of a completion of sorts. And with charity, I was going to call this card Seva. It just feels like a karma yoga card to me. The fire that helps to transform our soul. This would be such a great card to connect with justice, in that the movement of our own energy and the gazing into our own ego, looking at our own fire. I'm sure I spoke to that in the virtues episode. And so in this group of cards, it's ripe for action. It's ripe for going forward. It is full, full, full. And I could feel tremendous impatience with this 9 of baton and the 9 of swords. Even though, as I said before, with the odd-numbered swords and those arrows pointing down, it wants to land. It wants to take a moment. And it does feel like we're taking a moment in the World card. We are honoring the 4 corners of the world. We are honoring the town in which we are in. And yet I look at the fire here, the implied fire of the wheel, the fire here, and all of this energy. It wants to go on. And so perhaps the message of the 9s is to, whoa, just a moment. Take a moment here. Let's take a breath and slow down. There's no hurry to going forward. There's so much built-in energy here that, yeah, we're going to be going on. We're going to be going forward. This is all going to be coming to an end. But can we take a moment and bask in the gloriousness of what is 9? You've done some pretty great work to get to the number 9, because when the wheel turns, you don't really know what position you're going to end up in. I could also say that faith really speaks to this idea of Sagittarius with divine purpose. Sagittarius as a seeker, one who moves forward with intention and passion. There is no holding Sagittarius back. And so perhaps if we think about this energy of faith with Sagittarius, it kind of raises, or I was going to say raises the frequency. It reminds us that being clear about the purpose for our action is all very important here. Let's honor how far we have come. You know, this idea of the wheel and the wheel in the World card is quite uncanny. Do you get a sense of freedom in this combination of fire and chariot? Is it freedom? Is it recklessness? 10s are the end. They are the fulfillment. And in some way, the ripeness has become too ripe. You know, there can be that energy of over-ripeness. So the caution here is that, yes, let's not get hung up in the greatness of this number. It is indeed time for transformation and for moving on. And we certainly get that with the trumpet card, with the angel card. Wake up, listen to the call, let's move on. We can certainly take all of these lessons with us, but it is indeed time to go forward. And I can see that in the chariot, we're already on our way. So how does Cancer fit into this? Well, it's a cardinal sign, so that's a good sign. Emotionally, we're ready to go forward. And maybe all of this fire here and the 10 of Wands is going to help the water move, because we do need to move here. We can't be lingering in a 10. We need to be ready to leave something behind and let go of something. I feel like with any of the 10 cards, that is a question. It's an acknowledgement. In fulfillment is bittersweet. You have manifest something, and yet it's also time to go on and to go forward. And remember that in the game of Minchiate, these are the most valuable minor cards. They're very strong cards, so they're going to heavily influence what's around them. They're going to carry away what surrounds them. They're going to carry this fire away. So we want to be careful of too much. We want to be careful of excessiveness and pay attention to how these strong tens are affecting the surrounding cards. And that was the opposite in the red suits where the aces carried the greatest value. I know there are different systems, but you can apply fire to the judgment card. So we have fire, fire, and the chariot, while it looks pretty darn fiery, could be a water card or a fire card. And certainly with Cancer, we have a water card. So we have this possibility, certainly, of excessiveness here. Now, how does the crab speak to fulfillment? And why is Cancer XXX? You know, I've always seen this card, no problem, as a double, triple, in this case, quadruple change card, because in the Tarot de Marseille and most tarots, the wheel is a 10, and I see this as a double change card. Certainly makes sense that the chariot is a change card. This fire has a double 10 on it. We're ready to go forward. But why? Why is Cancer a triple 10? What is so important here? What sort of transformation is this speaking to? If we are aware of our Cancerian issues, could those issues be the secret of our transformation? Or is it about releasing and letting part of that go in the cycle of change that is implied in the 10? These are all just questions, and I am really excited. I thought that I was going to get to this ages ago, but it is time to start readings, and perhaps today I can shuffle a deck. Let's do a 3-card reading just to see where we're at. All right, so this is my very first reading with the Minchiate Tarot. And I'm going to see how this unfolds. I do need to go back and look at my rules for reading. All right, so you can shuffle 96 cards. This is the Minchiate Restauré by Ige and Nadolny. And I have opened the notes that I made on applying the rules of Minchiate for a unique tarot reading. And I'm just going to read through these before I do my reading. State your inquiry. Well, my inquiry right now is to sort of understand my journey with the Minchiate. If the Minchiate deck has a message, or if it feels like it's well suited to me, shuffle the cards, look at the bottom of the deck. If it is a trump card or a scoring card, continue to shuffle. Okay. I will do that. Cut the deck and look at the bottom of the cut. If there is a trump of 20 or greater, or any scoring card, then begin to turn over cards one by one until a trump under 20 or a suit card with no value is revealed. Well, I think I did okay here. I may have misinterpreted this, but I'm going to go ahead and say that this is my cut. Because this isn't a scoring card, I'm just going to read from the top here. Okay, so my first response, and I haven't done my video on the court cards yet. That will be coming up next. This Queen of Wands seems to match the energy that I have towards working with this deck, as far as applying my own creativity the idea of initiating, having the fiery energy that I need, and I'm looking forward to reading with these cards. I think I will do it linear. 3. Here is another. So this is the page of a receptive suit. And I said I was just going to do 3, but always curious to lay many cards down. But let's just leave it with this for today until I get that last video put together. It almost feels as if a gift is in hand, and what this gift is actually the Minchiate tarot. That I will be able to create something with this, and maybe even create paid readings one day to do with the Minchiate deck. It feels like it is indeed a path forward, that the path is one step at a time. We're early in development, but all in all, it feels very positive, like the cards are responding in an encouraging way, saying, yes, Sadhana, go ahead, let's do some readings. So thank you for being here today. And as always, I look forward to your comments. Take good care. Namaste.